This experiment is designed to show that leaves contain pigments besides just the green pigment, chlorophyll. They also contain pigments that make the leaves red and yellow and various shades of purple and pinks in the fall. The first thing that I did with this experiment was to go outside and get a leaf. This is a rhododendron leaf. You can also see that I used a coffee filter. For this experiment, I used a flat coffee filter because it fit more easily in the glass. I took a coin. You can also use a spoon if you don't have a coin handy. And I laid the leaf on top of the coffee filter. I had cut just a thin slice of the coffee filter. As you can see there, it's not doubled anymore, it's just one layer. And I started to scrape the leaf across the coffee filter, leaving some of the coloring of the leaf behind. You can see in this picture how the color of the leaf was left behind. It's okay to tear the leaf up, in fact it will. What you're doing is crushing the cells and releasing the chlorophyll so that the chlorophyll and the other pigments go onto the coffee filter. The next thing that I did was to get the isopropyl alcohol. It's just plain rubbing alcohol that you can get at any drugstore or grocery store. And I poured it into a glass. I poured it so that it would be just deep enough that the bottom of the coffee filter would get wet and be submerged, but that there would not be alcohol touching the green where I had rubbed the leaf. I then took the coffee filter and put it down into the glass, again just so that the bottom was wet, but not so that the green line got wet. You can see that I tore the coffee filter a little bit when I was scraping the leaf. That's okay. As long as you get some of the color on the coffee filter, it'll work just fine. And then I waited. You can see here that the coffee filter is getting wet. You can see the water down in the bottom. Actually, it's the alcohol down in the bottom of the glass beginning to raise up the coffee filter, and it begins to carry some of the pigments with it. This is actually called paper chromatography, and it's a technique that scientists use, chemists use, to separate different materials. Certain things move farther up the chromatography paper than others. In this instance, some pigments will move higher up the filter than others. And then I left it. You may need to leave your coffee filter sit for up to an hour or so in order to get all the separation that you're going to get. You can see here in this picture that the separation is nearly complete. And you can see that there not only is the green pigment, which you can see at the bottom of the line, but there's a yellow pigment in this leaf as well. Even though you couldn't see yellow in the leaf when it was first picked from the bush, there is yellow pigment in this leaf, as you can see by the yellow pigment that has separated out. And this is the final. When it was all done, I took it out and laid it down on the counter, and you can clearly see here the separation of the yellow and the green pigment. I ran the same experiment with another, and this is the result I got. You can see at the bottom there's like a greenish color, there's a yellow, and then there's another layer of the lighter green, and then above that the red pigment. Remember, in the fall what happens is the pigment, the green in the chlorophyll, is no longer present. It begins to die and is broken down by the cells of the leaf. And what's left are the red and yellow pigments, and that's why we get such beautiful colors of leaves in the fall. I hope you're able to do this experiment, but if not, I'm glad you took the time to watch this one and see the experiment that I ran.